the FBI permission to monitor his communications. The AP reported that former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort had indeed received $1.2 million in off-the-books payments from a pro-Russia party in Ukraine. And on Thursday, The Guardian quoted a single unnamed source saying this about the U.S. investigations into Russiagate. Quote, they now have specific, concrete, and corroborative evidence of collusion. This is between people in the Trump campaign and agents of Russian influence related to the use of hacked material. Back with me are Nayyera Haq, former FBI Special Agent Clint Watts, Malcolm Nance, author of The Plot to Hack America, and Naveed Jamali, former FBI double agent and author of How to Catch a Russian Spy. Thank you all for being here. Clint, I want to come to you on this first, because that last line in the Guardian piece, that there's now concrete evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russian entities involved in the hack. Do you think that that is concrete evidence, meaning something prosecutorial, or just evidence that the campaign utilized the material? I think it's first evidence that they utilized the material. I mean, we're looking for two things here: money and connections, and we've got both of them, or that is starting to surface. We saw that with the Manafort ledger, that came out this week. We're also seeing that with the Independent today reporting that Trump might have borrowed money back in 2008. Sure. And so that tends to lean to the scenario that compromised versus, just infiltrated. This campaign had some sort of support from Russia. Yeah, and Naveed, the example of utilizing, right? So Mike Pompeo, who was not a part of the Trump campaign, but was a Trump supporter, and who was brought into the Trump administration by Devin Nunes. This is him talking about WikiLeaks as CIA director right now. This is on Thursday.
It's time to call out WikiLeaks for what it really is: a non-state hostile intelligence service, often abetted by state actors like Russia.
And this is Mike Pompeo tweeting in 2016 about WikiLeaks. Need further proof that the fix was in from President Obama on down? Busted. 19,252 email from DNC leaked by WikiLeaks. And he's not the only person. Mike Pence is also on record using WikiLeaks, reading from it during the campaign. So are we talking about sort of useful idiocy, to use the sort of technical term, that they're just using the material? Or is there evidence that you know of foreknowledge that this material was coming to them by the Trump campaign?
Well, I think that is the big question. When it comes down, when you have Roger Stone, who's saying that he has a connection, he's met with, and certainly saying that there's about to be a dump before it actually happens with regards to Podesta emails. I think that there's obviously something there. But Joy, the thing that sort of strikes me the greatest here is the fact with Carter Page, what came out this week, that he was in fact someone who met with Russian intelligence officers, clearly was pitched in 2013. So he was known to the FBI before he actually ended up at the Trump campaign. And look, that 2015 case actually led to not only prosecution and arrest and a conviction, so here it's a fascinating thing that here's a man who was known to have met with Russian intelligence officers, kind of kicked free after 2015, then there's a FISA warrant and ends up on the Trump campaign. It's these things that I guess make you go, Yeah. I mean, it certainly seems like the facts are starting to emerge.
I'm going to get everybody else, but I want to come back to you, Clinton, really quick. How could someone who was the subject of a FISA warrant, who was investigated for potentially being an agent of a foreign power, and to Naveed's point, was known to be somebody who was being recruited by the Russians, the FBI doesn't give a heads up, let's say, to a campaign that, hey, you've got someone in your campaign that might have a problem?
Well, we don't know that it didn't happen. I mean, there is the potential it didn't. If you remember last summer, they went from President Trump now saying that Carter Page was someone who was part of his campaign to, I don't have any connection to, never heard of him. And so we don't know that didn't happen. But what is important is that he is a person that surfaced before. He was the target of Russian intelligence agents. And so now we have to ask, were they watching him because they thought he was an agent, or they were trying to see if maybe he had been compromised and didn't even know it?
Yeah, and Nayyera, also, what was he doing on the campaign? What was his purpose? Let's play Carter Page, who gives these really weird interviews. He gave one to Chris Hayes, and he's very sort of squirrely. He gave one to Good Morning America this week, and he's talking about the potential. What is it that they wanted Carter Page to do? And that is talking about sanctions, lifting sanctions with Russia. This is him on GMA Thursday.
It sounds like, from what you're saying, it's possible that you may have discussed the easing of sanctions. Something may have come up in a conversation. I have no recollection, and there is nothing specifically that I would have done that would have given people that impression, George.
But you can't say without equivocation that you didn't discuss the easing of sanctions.
Someone may have brought it up. I have no recollection, and if it was not something I was offering or someone was asking for.
So this is somebody who is known to have strong pro-Kremlin views, according to his former bosses at the Eurasia Group. They actually called him a wackadoodle, the most wackadoodle Eurasia Group alum in history. So he's somebody who was known to be pro-Kremlin. He gets on the campaign. He's potentially talking with the Russians about easing sanctions. Are we starting to get to the why of him being in the campaign?
We're starting to certainly see more and more evidence that the U.S. public, via the Trump campaign, has been the victim of a weapon of mass information. I mean, this is Carter Page, and all of his equivocation and his pro-Kremlin views show that the Russians are using hybrid warfare. They are using not just military strength in Europe, they are using in the United States the information landscape, including traditional assets, turning people, potentially advisors on campaigns, to their cause, and also the hacking of email. So this is all part of a broader campaign by Putin to be exercising his influence in the United States.
And Malcolm, so then where does Manafort come in? Because now you know that Manafort got money from a pro-Russia outfit in the Ukraine. We now have information that the money was deposited. He eventually borrowed from businesses with Kremlin ties after he left the campaign. And we also know that that Trump was also borrowing from Russia. But how does he end up figuring into this? Can you figure that out?
Well, I mean, he ran Donald Trump's campaign from March until September 2016, so he's very tied in. And all of the key incidents that occur with regards to counterintelligence all occurred on Manafort's watch. Carter Page going to Russia, supposedly, according to some information in the Christopher Steele memorandums, going there to cut deals with Rosneft. Trump coming out and seeming to become from an unwitting asset to a witting asset, talking about Russia's hacking of emails and asking them to hack American emails. Also, Paul Manafort's the one person that we know has at least one degree of separation from a former KGB officer that worked on his staff in the Ukraine when he was supposedly taking lots of cash to carry out operations for the pro-Moscow government in the Ukraine. And granted, once he got outed by the New York Times, that's when he dropped off the stage. That's when he was let go from the campaign and replaced with Steve Bannon. But he still seemed to continue to work from Trump Tower.
Right.
The question is that 1 degree of separation. Is it 1 degree of separation with him not knowing, or was he actually in league with Russian intelligence and linchpin to the entire operation? That's going to take some investigation.
But on the way out, Clint, is there any way of figuring out who brought this Russian operation into the campaign? You've got Manafort, you've got Flynn, you've got Page. Is there any way of telling which one of them might have been the person who brought it in?
I think it will happen over the next couple of years. If you look, just over the past week, we had 4 major developments in terms of these Russia to the Trump campaign links. If there's anything that I think we should consider, it's that Trump just doesn't vet his people very well, and therefore it allows for this sort of influence. And the best way as a Russian agent is not to pay someone to do something, but to convince them it's their own idea and to do it for
We're
you.
going to have you come back and talk about the other side of this, which is all the dead people that are turning up on the Russia side of this equation, because it's kind of hard to investigate someone when a lot of the people involved in it are turning up dead, and that's happening
So you
too.
got to kill the leads off.
Sorry, very quickly.
Yeah, there's one other interesting component that's missing here. As you noticed this week, there were a lot of talk of our foreign intelligence agencies, our sister collection agencies, actually having information about U.S. citizens' contacts with Russian intelligence agencies. That means that there are tapes and transcripts of these people's phone conversations.
Yeah. TikTok. This is getting interesting as it just gets more interesting every time. Clint Watts, thank you very much. We'll have you back. Nayyera, Malcolm, and Naveed will be back with us. And up next, a look at what's really behind Trump's bombs away strategy. And in our next hour, why some Democrats want Jared Kushner's security clearance revoked. And Jefferson Beauregard Sessions' new draconian plan for immigrants. All that's coming up.
I'm taking you down, Toretto. Come and get it.
That's not good.
It's out, torpedo! Take the wheel! This is crazy! Boom, baby!
You get style points for that one.
Rated PG-13.
Okay, ready? Here's a story.
Gotta run.
We're having a weird Tonight.
Don't miss a thing. Listen to MSNBC on Sirius XM 118.
Earning your cash back shouldn't be this complicated. Yet some cards limit where you earn bonus cash back to a few places and then change those places every few months.
Enough with that.
With Quicksilver from Capital One, you always earned unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase, everywhere. Welcome to Unlimited. What's in your wallet?
We're both stuck in this cube farm, and you're about to hit send all on some embarrassing gas. Hey, you bought GasX! Unlike antacids, GasX relieves pressure and bloating fast. Crisis averted.
Think you know New York State? Think again. This is the new New York. We are building new airports all across the state. New roads and bridges. New mass transit. New business-friendly environment. New lower taxes. And new university partnerships to grow the businesses of tomorrow today. Learn more at esd.ny.gov.
Babbel is the smart new way to learn a language on your computer or mobile device. It's easy to use, effective, and it's fun. Download the app or go to Babbel.com right now and try it for free. Learn languages. Babbel.
When this bell rings, it starts a chain reaction that's heard throughout the connected business world. AT&T Network Security helps protect business from the largest financial markets to the smallest transactions by sensing cyber attacks in near real time and automatically deploying countermeasures, keeping the world of business connected and protected. That's the power of "and."
Thanks to all our viewers and tweets who keep the conversation going at #AMJoy. Make sure you join in on the Twitter and Facebook convo at AM Joy Show and also on Snapchat and Instagram at Joyanne Reid. And up next, drop a bomb and you get a pat on the back. Or at least that's how it seems for Donald Trump.
In case you need anything, just give me a call. Thank you.
P.O. Box 17. Of course I'm a real company.
Everything your customers see tells a story. Let the UPS store help you tell the right one. From business cards and banners to expertly packed shipments to mailboxes with a real street address. Come in today for help. Get everything you need to tell the story of your business at upsstoreprint.com.
Before you put on all the layers, there is Gold Bond Healing Lotion. It penetrates 10 layers deep to help stop dry skin before it starts. 7 moisturizers, 3 vitamins, leave skin nourished, healed, healthy looking. Gold Bond Healing. Ultimate lotion, ultimate skin.
Janice is learning French with Babbel.
2 croissants, s'il vous plaît.
D'accord. With 14 languages, Babbel gets you conversational fast for real-life situations. Try Babbel.com for free today.
You're gonna be hanging out in here, so if you need anything, text me.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm not quite sure, but...
Do you play?
Use the Chase mobile app to send money in just a tap to friends at more banks than ever before.
You got next?
Chase, helping you master what's now and what's next.
Temper.
Hey.
Kevin Harvick.
Changing your oil after 3,000 miles?
Yes.
If you'd used new Mobile One annual protection, you wouldn't have to. It protects your engine for 1 year with just 1 oil change.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Can I ask you a question? Why are you 3 inches tall?
Why aren't you 3 inches tall?
Don't change your oil. New Mobile One annual protection.
It's madness. Midnight Madness.
Win complete room groups in every showroom from 6 p.m. to midnight this Saturday.
Win a bedroom. Win a living room. Win a dining room.
Plus free food and refreshments.
This Saturday will be open till midnight. Get mad sale pricing on every furniture group.
Free express delivery and no interest till January 2020.
Midnight Madness at all More Furniture for Less locations, including our newest in Lacey next to Regal Cinemas.
Speaks truth to power.
Here's a message to the White House. You keep lying, we're going to keep reporting.
With access to the people who matter.
Is the war on the media over?
From the Senate floor.
One issue you heard there where you thought, okay, maybe we can work with this president on that.
To the Oval Office.
Joe was first to report.
Two sources tell us at Morning Joe.
Through every hallway in the Beltway.
It's time to see what we see.
We see the need for an extensive investigation.
Morning Joe, weekdays 6 to 9 on MSNBC.
If you believe the Trump family narrative, it was favorite daughter Ivanka Trump who influenced her daddy's decision to launch military strikes against Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Ivanka's younger brother, Eric, told the Daily Telegraph that he's sure of it. But this week, when the military dropped the mother of all bombs on ISIS targets in Afghanistan, the Jewish Insider reported that Ivanka Trump was spending the Passover holiday in Whistler, a resort town in Canada. Perhaps Trump now feels he doesn't need Ivanka's support to drop bombs because when he does take military action, he gets his reinforcement from his media family. And joining me now is Naira Haq, a former State Department spokesman and former White House Senior Director, Terrorism Analyst Malcolm Nance, and former FBI double agent Naveed Jamali. So let's talk about this sort of weird reinforcement thing that's happening, Naira, where it is like the family enterprise is running the United States, and it is not the way the United States normally operates.
Not how the United States operates, but it is how a lot of countries in the developing world and dictatorships operate, where the person often comes in, elected, takes additional powers, doesn't rely on any sort of expertise, hates the media, elevates family into chief positions of power. That's what's particularly worrisome about the direction of how our president relies and makes decisions. You also have this sense now that the military has a lot of cool toys for our president to use. First Tomahawk missiles, then the mother of all bombs, without any explanation to the American public of what the broader strategy is. So you have actions without any words to back them up, any sense of depth of expertise, and it's worrisome that you have a fashion designer and a man who ran a newspaper not very well, advising our president on foreign policy.
Yeah, and who owes like lots and lots of money to the Chinese bank, the official banks in China for 666 Fifth Avenue, and that's the guy who's running everything. There are words that do back it up, though, Naveed, that you've heard coming out of what we think is the official channels of the Trump government. U.S. Central Command had a very weird moment this week. Our friend Rachel Maddow pointed this out. The Hill newspaper received this really wild statement about why the United States chose to attack in the way it did with this Moab bomb. And this is part of the quote. This is somebody calling themselves a U.S. Central Command spokesperson that said, when you have a very large beehive, a little fly swatter may not work. So finally you take out the big stuff. We just found a huge beehive and we have to use something more than a fly swatter. When asked whether the bomb was also meant to send a message to the enemy, the spokesman replied, absolutely. We mean business. We mean business. President Trump said prior that once he gets in, he's going to kick the SHIT out of the enemy. That was his promise. That's exactly what we're doing. Well, the CENTCOM has since walked that back. They then told The Hill, and this was via an actual named spokesperson named Major Josh Jacques, who said, statements published on April 13 attributed to U.S. CENTCOM were made by an individual unauthorized to speak on behalf of U.S. Central Command and do not reflect the professionalism of CENTCOM. These statements fail to portray the values of more than 80,000 service members of the U.S. military currently serving in the CENTCOM area of responsibility. I was going to give that to Naveed, but I actually want to first give that to Malcolm, who is our military veteran on the panel. What is going on?
You know, inside of every administration, you find these individuals who are, you know, inside the military chain of command, who have a loyalty more to the President of the United States than they have to the Constitution of the United States. And they will come out and they will talk smack. And invariably, I mean, there's supposed to be a chain of command that's supposed to stifle this. Certainly, there should be at least be in that public affairs office at Central Command a command sergeant major who should walk up there and smack him upside the head and say, you can't talk like this, and then pass that on to the commanding general and make sure that he gets an Article 15 and kicked out of the military. We do not talk like this because we take the profession of warfare very seriously. And I've fought in over 20 years, and I have never seen statements come out where they say the President of the United States is going to kick your butt. That literally, especially coming from Doha, Qatar, where you can go to the Baskin-Robbins, does not reflect the values of the people who are having to sit in that mountain in Nangara province and literally sweat, blood, and tears while these strikes are going on. So, you know, you have your rear area personnel, and then you have the war fighters who are out on the spear tip, and the war fighters don't talk like this.
And Naveed, you know, I feel like you and I do have this conversation a lot offline. There is a sense of unseriousness, okay, about it, just to be quite frank. When you have the children talking about Ivanka made him bomb Syria, when you have the president hanging out golfing while the Moabs are raining down, telling the president of China, President Xi, about the bombing over a lovely, delicious piece of chocolate cake. There is something about it that is disturbingly unserious, but also, to Naira's point, reminiscent of the way autocracies operate, not proper democracies, and certainly not the United States, and all of this sort of weird language coming out of the official channels of the United States. What is going on?
Yeah, that's a great, you know, that is the question. I mean, when we have someone like Jared Kushner who's gone from remodeling, you know, 2 bedrooms in Soho, it's now advising the president, you know, it gives pause for concern. And look, I think that there is a lack of seriousness here. As Nair pointed out, there's just not a strategy. As Malcolm pointed out, the lack of professionalism you know, when it comes to those statements. Yeah, I think that what you're seeing is it's almost as if, you know, you have a CEO. The average rank and file is not going to deal with that CEO, but the CEO sets the culture. And when you set the culture, you know, even if you're not directing your individual departments down to your individual, you know, employees, those people are going to act within that culture. And I think that's a very dangerous culture that's coming up here. So we need to, you know, this needs to move forward. We need to figure out a way to kind of close this out.
That very well said. We learned that with Bridgegate. Chris Christie set the culture. Things happened accordingly. Donald Trump has set a culture that is odd and unserious and tied to his family and odd. I'm just going to leave it at that. Naira Haq, thank you very much. Malcolm Nance and Naveed Jamali, thank you guys. Our all-star team, thank you. And up next, Jared gets put on the hot seat over Russia.
Are allergies holding you back? Break through your allergies. Try new Flonase Sensimist instead of allergy pills. It's more complete allergy relief and a gentle mist you may not even notice. Using unique Mist Pro technology, new Flonase Sensimist delivers a gentle mist to help block 6 key inflammatory substances that cause your symptoms. Most allergy pills only block 1, and 6 is greater than 1. Break through